Thank you everyone for joining our Buying a Home in Groningen webinar today. So a little introduction. I am Rafaela. I am Expat Buying Manager at Expat Housing Network for around 2 years now. I am Brazilian. I left Brazil in 2008, and since then I have lived in Austria, England, and the Netherlands. In Groningen itself, I live here for 10 years already, so I know the area quite well. I'm a proud mom of 2 daughters, and I have to tell you, I think they're growing up way too fast in my opinion, but I'm very, very proud of them. I bought my own house here 6 years ago. I sold that one and I bought another one. So believe me, I know what you're going through at the moment. The content of our webinar today, we'll have a little introduction. We'll go through some market info. Also, we're going to share some market drivers, what made the prices to increase in the past and how the current market looks like, what you need from savings for the buying process, 3 tips to win in the market, and of course, we're going through the timeline at the end of the presentation as well. Greatness is achieved in the agents of others, and what do you mean by that is that we believe that we can deliver a great service if we work as a team. And because of that, I'm gonna share with you our buying team. We have myself, I already presented myself in the beginning. We also have Giovanna, she's also from Brazil, and she lives in the Netherlands for around 15 years now. She's sitting in Eindhoven and she's responsible for that area. We also have Rick. Rick sitting in Rotterdam and he looks after Rotterdam and The Hague. And we also have Ludo. Ludo, he's Dutch. He has lived abroad for a few years. He's sitting in Amsterdam and is responsible for that area. Ludo is here with us today, and if you have any questions, he will be supporting us with answering the questions. So if you have any question that you want to make, please pop in the chat or Q&A and he will be answering it. If at the end of the presentation we still have some questions left, we can go through it together. A brief introduction to our company. We are no traditional real estate agents, so we help with buying and renting, and we also started to support with letting. So if you buy a property now and in the future you decide to rent it out, you can always contact us. But we don't have properties to sell ourselves yet. We charge a percentage of the appraisal value, and the reason for that is because we believe it is the fairest way, since we have no influence on that amount. If we would charge our fee over the purchase price, we have influence on that. But the appraisal value is done by the expert, the appraiser. So we think it's fairest to charge our fee based on that. And of course, we know what it's like to settle in a new country. We are all either expats or have lived abroad for a while. So we know how challenging it can be. What's our added value? So selling agents take offers from our company more seriously, and the reason for that is because we are in the market for around 8 years now. So we have some network. When we send our offer to them, they know they can take it seriously, that we did our homework, we did our research, so they can trust on the offer we send. We can sometimes book viewings when it's no longer possible, again, because of the network we have. And sometimes also some agents, they save some spots for people that are buying with another agent. So if you try to book it yourself, maybe it's no longer possible. But if we try, we can do it for you. We support by reviewing Dutch legal and property documents, which is very important, of course. Always when you go to view a property, we receive a lot of documents and we check those and check if there is any red flags or anything you should be aware of. We are going to share that with you before your final decision to send an offer or not. We help define market value through market data. We'll go through in more details later on in this presentation, but we basically use the same method as the appraisers do. So we do our research based on similar properties that were sold recently. So we can estimate the market value of that property, which is very important when especially I would say, especially when you have a mortgage, it's really, really important for you to find the market value of that property before you send this offer. We will inform you about rules and regulations that might apply for your specific case. So different rules and regulations may apply if you're buying to live in or to rent it out. There are some different policies that apply. So it is always important for you to understand everything that's involved in the process. And of course, we make sure you don't make the same mistakes we have made. Let's go through some market info. Here we have some numbers of the development in the average selling price in the Netherlands for the past few years. So in this graphic, you can see that from 2005 until 2022, the prices increased quite a lot. You can only see a drop between 2008, 2013, and that was the period that we had crisis in the country. After that, especially in the past few years, the price increased significantly. If this graphic would go a little bit further, so bring it up to this year, you would see a little bit of stabilization because of the increase of the interest rates and the current situation. The prices quite stabilized. And you can see that from these numbers. The average purchase price in 2022, the last quarter was 407,000. And if you see the first quarter of 2023 is 394. So it dropped a little bit, and it is an average of the whole country. So there is some cities that the price stabilized, but on other cities, the price dropped a little bit as well. The average price for the new builds for this first quarter was 468,000. So it is a little bit higher than the existing properties. Here we have some Groningen market figures from the first quarter of this year. We had 896 houses sold. If you compare with last year, it was plus 6%. And if you compare with last quarter, it was minus 6%. There is currently 676 houses for sale. So it is a big difference from last year. It is 74% more. So that's good for you. If you're looking to buy a house, you have more options at the moment. And the average purchase price is 330,000. It also increased if you compare with last year, but if you compare with the last quarter, it dropped a little bit as well. The average purchase price is 3,176 per square meter. Sorry, I didn't mention that. And the sales time is 24 days, even though it increased if you compare with last year and last quarter, it's still quite fast. So what we understand from that is that we need to act fast in order to secure your home. Here we have some market drivers, and we're gonna start with what caused the prices to increase in the past few years. And then we move forward with how the current market looks like. So we had the fiscal benefits. We have the tax exemption. So if you buy a property up to 440K and you are under 35 years old, you don't need to pay the transfer tax. If you buy a property and you're either older than 35 years old, or buy a property above 440K, you have to pay 2% as a transfer tax. If you buy as an investor, so you want to buy a property to rent it out, you have to pay 10.4% as a transfer tax. So that's something very important for you to know. We have the interest rebate. So it is important for you to understand that the interest paid is tax deductible. So you're going to receive some money back later on. There is no capital gain. So if you buy a property now and you decided or need to sell it in the future, you don't need to pay taxes over the gains on this property. And we also have the last year of the tax-free parent donation. This benefit just applies for Dutch citizens. I mean, if the parents that are donating living in the Netherlands or are Dutch, and they donate now around 23,000 euros, they don't need to pay taxes on that amount. For next year, it's coming to an end. So it is also important for you to know, if you're an expat, if your parents live abroad and they want to donate money to you, you're not going to need to pay taxes here in the Netherlands. You're probably going to need to pay taxes there, but here you don't need to pay taxes, so you don't need to worry about that. The low interest rates, this also, it was incredibly low in the beginning of last year. It increased a little bit now, but of course it played a big role on making the prices to increase in the past years. Everyone wanted to make use of these interest rates and take the opportunity to buy a property because of that. Of course, the high rents, I think this is one of the main reasons that people prefer to buy than rent, because most of the people prefer to pay for their own mortgage than to pay for someone else's mortgage. And at the same time, you can build some equity as well. And lack of supply. In the Netherlands, we are currently short of properties. I would say it's more than 300,000 properties. So we don't have enough properties for people to buy. So this is one of the things that makes the prices to increase as well. The current market. So we could see some changes from last year to this year. And what made this difference in the market is the increase of the interest rate. So the interest rates in the beginning of the last year were 1.5%, something like that, and now they're around 4%. We did have an increase of the interest rates, but if you compare the current interest rate with another countries, or even with the Netherlands a few years ago, it is still quite low. So I think it's still worth it to buy a property with the current interest rates as well. 80% more active listings, so we have more properties available for you to choose from, which is great. We also have less overbidding at the moment, which is also very nice. So we can most of the time be able to borrow 100% of the purchase price, and you don't need to add some savings on top of that. So that's good as well. And still a lack of supply due to the high material cost. So we had some new builds planned to be ready or be starting, and they are all delaying because of the high material costs. So we don't expect to have enough properties for everyone in the near future. So yeah, the prices might come back to increase again in the future. Here are some rules and regulations that apply. So we have the self-occupancy obligation. It started last year. So if you buy a property in Groningen with the WOZ value up to 305,500, you are not able to rent it out. There are some exemptions. So if you need to rent it for a family member, either parents or children, you can do that, but we need a permission. Also, you need to live in the property for 4 years before you rent it. If you need to have a sabbatical period of around 1 year and you can prove, you can ask permission for that. So these are the exemptions. But general rule, if you buy a property with the WOZ up to that amount, you cannot rent it out. You have to live in the property. And why they started this policy in most of the cities in the Netherlands is to facilitate, to make it easier for the people that want to buy a property, and make it harder for the investors, because of course it's always hard to compete with an investor that has all the amount in cash, and then if you go with a mortgage, yeah, it is hard to compete with them. So they are making these new rules to make it harder for the investors and making it easier for the people that want to buy to live in the property. If you're interested or consider to rent it later, please take a look in this link. When you're sending the presentation later, you can click there and you can see all the information in detail. We also have the mandatory smoke detector since July last year. This rule started to apply. So if you own a property, you need to have smoke detectors in every level. Otherwise, you can receive a penalty. And also, if something happens, the insurance might not cover if you didn't have these smoke detectors in place as they should. And we have the rising interest rates. I also explained a little bit before. This increase in the interest rates made pressure in the market to downwards the price of the properties. So which is good for you that are looking to buy a house. We don't see a lot of overbidding. We also don't see the prices that crazy anymore. So they are starting to stabilize and make more sense, I would say. So what you need in savings before we start. So here we have what we call the closing fees. So everything that you're going to need and how much everything will cost. So if you buy a property and you're either older than 25 or buy a property above 440K, you need to pay the transfer tax. That's 2% of the purchase price. So if you can use this benefit of the tax exemption, then you don't pay this 2%. If you buy as an investor, then you have to pay 10.4% of the purchase price. You're also going to need to have the transfer deed and the mortgage deed done by the notary. For that, you can calculate that you're going to spend between $700 and $1,300 for each of the deeds. It is important for you to know as well that everything that's mortgage related is tax deductible, so you're going to receive some money back later on. You also need to have either the bank or the mortgage broker, of course, if you need a mortgage. And if you go for the bank, you can think about 1,500 euros. And if you work with a mortgage broker, it would be around 3,400 euros. This is also tax deductible. Our fees, they are between 0.75% and 1% of the appraisal value, but I'll go through our fees in details later on as well. If you have a mortgage, you need an appraiser going to the property to provide the official valuation report that the banks need. And for that, they're going to charge you between 700 and 900 euros. This is also tax deductible. If you decide to have a technical inspection done, that's going to cost you around 465 euros. If you're not a fluent Dutch speaker, you need an interpreter at the day of the transfer at the notary. And for that, you're going to spend around 290 euros. At one stage of the process, you also need to provide either a 10% of the purchase price bank guarantee or a deposit. So if you decide to have a bank guarantee instead of a deposit, then you have to pay a fee of around 250 euros for the bank to provide this guarantee to the notary. And also, if you buy a property up to 405,000 euros, you can make use of the National Mortgage Guarantee. Why it's good to make use of it? They give you a better interest rate, and they also work as an insurance. So if for one reason you can no longer pay your mortgage, either because you lost your job or something happened that's not possible for you to pay the mortgage, it is a kind of insurance that is gonna support you on that. So if you buy a property within that amount, we always advise you to make use of this National Mortgage Guarantee. And for this, you have to pay 0.6% of the mortgage amount, and is also tax deductible. So these are basically all the closing fees that you need from savings. You cannot borrow that from the bank. You need to have it in cash, I would say. So here we have 3 tips to win in the current market. Value, value, value. So we have 2 different scenarios that are happening at the current moment. So you can either see the asking price, it can be lower or higher than market value. So I'm going to show you 2 different examples how that would work. So for this property, the asking price is 395. So here is the asking price. We did our research, and then we see that the market value of this property is actually 415,000. For this specific house, let's say, that was very competitive, and you thought that you need to put some savings on top to secure the home, and so you overbid a little bit more, and then the purchase price would be 435. So if you compare the asking price with the purchase price, you're going to think that you overbid 10%. But when in reality, what we generally say that's an actual overbidding is when you overbid the market value. So in reality, you overbid 4.8% instead of 10%. What is very important for you to know is that you can borrow 100% of the market value if your mortgage cap allows to. So it's not the asking price, it's not the purchase price, but it is the market value. So you always have to find the market value before you send an offer. Here is the same house. Let's say that this selling agent, because of a different strategy, they decided to put the asking price a little bit lower than the other one. So you see the same house, the asking price for this one is 375. The market value is still the same, is the same property. The purchase price, again, is the same because it's the same property. If you compare the asking price with the purchase price in this case, you're going to think that you overbid 60K, when in reality, what you have to really take in consideration is what you overbid over the market value. So it is still 20K, still. It's quite a lot in this case. So here we have the opposite. So it is also important for you to understand that there is no rule for the selling agent to put a price for a property in the market. So if they want to, they can put the property in the market for 1,000 if they want. So there is no rule. So they can put as low as they want or as high as they want, but doesn't really mean that's the market value. So for this property, we can see it more often at the current market now. So the asking price for this one is 450 in this example. So what happened here is that the market value is actually lower than the asking price. So this is really important for you to understand. So if you see the asking price 450 and you offer 450, you need to have 25K from savings to cover this difference, because the bank is not going to borrow you 450. They're going to borrow you 425. So if you compare the asking price with the purchase price, you think you're even, but when in reality, you did overbid 25,000. And again here, this asking price 450, the market value 425, and then the purchase, because you need 100% of the mortgage, then you have to stick to the market value. So if you compare the asking price, you're going to think that you paid less than the value of the property, but then in reality, you just paid the exact market value. So it is important for you to understand the market value to base your offer on it. A winning offer. So let's see how a winning offer looks like. Offer a good price, not always the highest price. And that's because of the previous example that I gave to you. Sometimes you offer the highest price, but then you need 100% from your mortgage. That's if I go back to the, here. If I go back to this example here. So if you offer 450, the selling agent know that the market value is lower. And if you need 100% of mortgage, they will know that you will not be able to borrow that. So they will not accept your offer because they know that you're not going to be able to borrow the total amount that you need. Offer security to the seller. And how can you do that? If you're relying on a mortgage, you can always ask them to provide you with a letter indicating that you would be able to borrow the amount mentioned. That would give security to the seller as well. Offer the least amount of hassle. So when the seller wants to sell their property, they want the easier process as possible for them. So let's say if they want to have the transfer done within 4 months, but you want it in 3. Yeah, try to work it out to make the deadline work for the seller, because of course, if they have 2 similar offers, they are going to choose the ones that offer the least amount of hassle for them. Also, if they have some furniture that they want to leave behind because they're moving to another country and they cannot take them with them, even though if you don't want, you can always try to make it work for them as well. Take over the furniture, sell it later, but yeah, try to make it easier for them. So that's always helpful as well. Offer a personal touch. So it's always nice. I don't think this is the one that plays the role the most, but of course it can always help. So write down a letter explaining to the seller why did you like their property, who you are, how do you see why do you see yourself and your family living there. It always can make a difference also when they have two similar offers. They can take a look and then they can relate to you as well. So that can play a role if they have two similar offers, I would say. So here we have the due diligence. We have two experts that goes to the property. We have the technical inspector. So this expert goes to the property to check the condition of the property and what work needs to be done in the near future and in the long term. And they're going to provide you with a report with this work that needs to be done and how much that would cost you. So it's always nice for you to receive this report so you can have a forecast of how much you need to invest in the property after you buy it. I always advise you here in Groningen, especially to have a technical inspection done, especially because we have the earthquakes that happen here now and then and can damage some properties. So it's always nice to have an expert going to the property to have it checked. And we also have the appraiser. The appraiser is the expert that goes to the property to provide you with the official valuation report that the banks need. So this is mandatory when you are having a mortgage. So I have one question here. Do you book them before or after your offer is accepted? Can you answer in the chat, please? Do you have any idea when would you book these experts? Thank you so much for answering it. Let's move on. So let's see. So here is the sweet spot is after the offer accepted. And the main reason for that is because they cost you money. So sometimes you would be lucky enough to have the first property you viewed with your offer accepted, but sometimes you need to see 3 or 4 properties before you have one accepted. So if you have these experts going to the for these 3 or 4 properties, you have to pay them every time they go to the property. So what we always do is right after you have your offer accepted, we book them within a week, maximum 10 days, they would go there. So we can have their report by either when you sign the purchase agreement or by the end of the cooling off period. So it's really important to have these 2 reports during this time. So here we have the timeline. It starts with the search, but as I mentioned before, I would say even that's the first thing you need to do is either to speak to your bank or your mortgage advisor so you can figure out your finances before you start the process. After that, you start with the search. We always advise you to use Funda. Funda is the website where you can find, I would say, 95% of the properties that are for sale in the Netherlands are there. So it is the best place for you to do your search. After you start the search, you find a property you like, you book a viewing. After you view the property, if you like the property and you want to send an offer to it, what we do a research. So we check all the documents that you have received to check if there is any red flags or any additional information that you need to know. And we also share that with you as well. And we also do the price research. So you're going to be aware of the market value before you send the offer. After that, we're going to discuss your offer. We submit the offer for you and negotiate with the selling agents as well. After the offer is approved, we book the appraiser and the technical inspection within a week. After that, we're going to receive the draft of the purchase agreement. We are going to check that and review that together with you, explain every article and everything that's in there. After you sign the purchase agreement, you can start your mortgage application. And it is also important for you to know that after signing the purchase agreement, you have a cooling off period of 3 days. So you have until this time to pull out of the deal without any penalties. If you decide to cancel the deal after that, you have to pay 10% of the purchase price as a penalty. After you apply for your mortgage, it takes around 4 weeks to be approved. It can be a little bit less or a little bit more. It depends on your case, but we need to know this information before we send an offer as well. So always speak to your mortgage advisor or your bank before you start the process. So we're going to know how long you're going to need to have your mortgage approved. After your mortgage application is approved, you enter the final stage of the process. So around 10 days before the transfer, you're going to receive the statement of completion from the notary. So it is basically the final invoice where all the closing fees that we saw before are going to be there. Everything in detail, and then you have to have it paid before the transfer. On the day of the transfer, you're going to have a last inspection done at your property. So you go there to check if everything is working properly. Right after the last inspection, you go directly to the notary to sign the transfer and the mortgage deed, and you're going to have the key handover done there. So after that, the property is yours. We have here an end of liability term of 2 months, but we always advise our clients to, as soon as you move into your new property, use your property in full to check if there is any damage or anything you were not aware of. So the sooner you find out something is wrong, the easier it is for you to claim liability from the seller. So basically, this is the whole process. So here we have the packages that we offer. We have the new build package. It is a totally different process than what we saw today. So if you're interested in buying a new build, please book an intake with one of us so we can go through this process with you and explain everything in detail there. For existing properties, we have the smart package and the complete package. So for the smart package, we give you the guidance online. So we have an intake, we have a personal buying manager. So even though we work as a team on your file, you have one person of contact. We do the property document review. We also do the price research for every property we want to send an offer to. We submit the offer for you. We do the contract review, book the third parties, and do the pre-transfer support. And our fee for that is 0.75% of the appraisal value. And we also have the complete package. The main difference between them is that for the complete package, we are going to be physically there with you. So we can schedule the viewing for you, and we're also going to attend the viewings and attend the technical inspection and at the notary together with you as well. And we also give you the transfer support. For this one, we charge 1% of the appraisal value. So this is the packages that we offer and the fees that apply for it. So that's it for the presentation today. Do you still have any questions left, Ludo?
I see 2 questions coming in already. Do you need to be a Dutch national to buy a house?
No, you don't need to be a Dutch national. If you need a mortgage, though, you need to have a BSN number. But to buy a house, you can even be living abroad and you can buy a property here.
Exactly. Perfect. And can you explain to us what the appraisal value is? Well, when you buy a property, we, of course, as a buying agent, will do a lot of research for you to determine what the market value is. However, the bank will not take our Excel sheet as proof of the market value. They want someone to come into the house to write a full report on the actual value. This is what an appraiser is going to do. And an appraiser is going to come with a market value of their own, but because an appraiser is going to do it, they call it the appraisal value. So the appraisal value is the final actual market value amount, and also the maximum amount that a bank will give to you. Luckily, our market research and our market value is, I would say, 99% of the time the same as the appraisal value.
Thank you, Ludo.
Yeah, of course. That's it. That's all the questions I have from today.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your support.
Of course.
And thank you all for joining us here today. So if you have specific questions about your case, please feel free to book an intake with one of us. We would be able to help you to answer all the questions you have, and hopefully we can start working together as well. And I wish you a great day. Enjoy your rainy day today here in Groningen.
Thanks, Rafaela. Thanks very much. Have a good day, guys.